Tonight on the WHAS 1119.
National treasure taken on by Blazing Sevens.
Sounds we'll no longer hear in Louisville this season. Churchill Downs in an unprecedented move, shifting the rest of this racing season over to Ellis Park.
When we read about it, we wasn't sure if it'd even be open.
The move comes after 12 horse deaths at the track since April. The investigation into what caused those catastrophic breakdowns and deaths at the track is ongoing.
I haven't seen anything that really stands out to me so far.
Our focus team gets an exclusive look at how they've been testing the track. And finally, we wrap up the WHAS Crusade for Children today. How much this year's event raised for the kids of Kentuckiana. The WHAS 1119 starts now. Racing at Churchill Downs has officially ended for the season. The 12 recent horse deaths at the world's most famous racetrack has led to the historic change. Hello everyone, I'm Bobby McSwine. Churchill is finishing their racing season at Ellis Park out of an abundance of caution. WHAS 11's Connor Steffen shows us how horse racing fans are reacting on today's final race.
The signs said it all at Churchill Downs Sunday.
And the final bet for the first turn.
As fans watched on underneath the iconic twin spires for one last time this spring meet.
I've never been to a horse race. This is my very first time, and it was phenomenal.
But also a close call for the Goody family, visiting the Commonwealth from Iowa this week.
Because when we read about it, we wasn't sure if it'd even be open.
Churchill Downs announced a pause would be put in place on races this week in response to a wave of recent horse deaths on and near the track.
We didn't really know about it. I mean, we knew about like some of the tragedies that have gone on with the horses.
Since April, 12 horses have died. 11 of them were put down due to injuries. The rest of the spring meets races have been moved 130 plus miles west to another Churchill Downs zone venue.
All the races are moving to Ellis Park, and that's a long drive.
Yeah.
Get one more in before it closes
We
down.
might go to Ellis Park.
Husband and wife, Mark and Linda Frederick, have a unique perspective on the whole situation, since they've been coming out to the track for some 40 years now, back when they had just started dating.
Oh, I think they're taking all the appropriate actions. I think they were timely in what they did, and they're going to get to the bottom of it.
Churchill Downs CEO Bill Carstangen called the recent deaths deeply upsetting and absolutely unacceptable. At this time, no obvious or specific pattern has been determined in the deaths. Churchill's racetrack also has not been linked to the incidents.
I think they just haven't found it. They just haven't found it yet. They're going to find something different about the track compared to years past.
Churchill Downs also announced it will be implementing new safety measures at the track in collaboration with the Horse Racing Integrity and Safety Authority. A spokesperson with HISA confirmed the regulating body will continue to investigate the unprecedented number of horse deaths, saying all options remain on the table. In Louisville, Connor Steffen, the WHAS 1119, on your side.
Now, authorities involved with the investigation on these horse deaths have been saying all along that this is a puzzle. Since Derby, Focus investigator John Charlton has been following developments, including specialized testing at the track in the race to try to solve this tragic mystery.
Out the gate, it's the burst, leading to thrust, and then to speed. It's plain to see how special they are. The vision of horses running is a raw beauty anyone can appreciate, but it can also be a fragile one. At the greatest show on dirt, 150,000 at the track with millions more watching from home. Witness that twice in race 8 on Derby Day. Freezing Point didn't even make it down the backstretch, suffering a broken leg. While 6 races prior, Chloe's Dream suffered a knee fracture in the first turn. Both were later euthanized, becoming the 6th and 7th horses to die at Churchill Downs leading up to Kentucky Derby 149. Over the next 2 weeks, 3 more deaths. So it came to this point. To take another close look at everything, including the track itself.
And we need to dial that in.
And the uniformity of its 4 layers, at the surface, down.
If there's any variations, such as maybe the cushion is a little bit thinner or thicker, we will see these lines move up and down.
Even on a fast track, it takes a very slow pace.
I travel at approximately 5 miles an hour.
To get an accurate reading from the ground-penetrating radar. Churchill Downs brought back the Racing Surfaces Testing Laboratory for re-inspection.
So far I'm able to verify that they are harrowing, and in fact about 2 3/4 to 3 inches.
Maintenance vehicles harrow to erase horse hoof prints on the track and of course erase their own tire tracks, resetting the surface at just the right depth for cushion and consistency and therefore safety.
I haven't seen anything that really stands out to me so far.
Over several passes on the dirt, over 2 days on the mile oval. Nothing obviously wrong from tests, even with this machine, which replicates a galloping thoroughbred's front leg, pounding the dirt at 2,500 pounds of force.
It really gives you a performance test of the track.
On Derby Day, there weren't any red flags on the condition of the racetrack?
We didn't see any indications. We have all these tests that we perform every day, and we did not see any indication. And then what we're doing today is we're actually retesting everything to make sure we didn't miss anything.
Their data is part of a thorough investigation on these thoroughbred deaths.
We are looking at the track information to help the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission go back and look at all the pieces of the puzzle.
But the puzzle continues. Just 2 days after the track testing, on May 26th, the number 6 horse lost in limbo. Seen here on the backside in race 7, never made it to the finish line, horrifically tumbling and then had to be put down. The very next day, veterinarians also euthanized Kimberly Dream due to injury, becoming the 12th horse at Churchill Downs to die this meet.
What's going on?
There's an investigation underway. The KHRC is conducting one, Churchill's conducting one, and so are we.
The Horse Racing Integrity and Safety Authority, the new federal regulatory agency, has taken the lead on what it calls a cluster of horse deaths. Lisa Lazarus is the CEO.
These things are multifactorial. You know, it's very rarely just one situation. It's very rarely just one item that's causing the issue.
Lazarus says they're looking at the veterinary history on the horses and their medications. They're also waiting on necropsy reports, which is now required of every deadly racehorse breakdown. HISA has made the rules uniform from track to track, state to state.
These breakdowns were not all under the same circumstances. Some of them were on the dirt track, some were on the turf track. There was a paddock accident, there were a couple of sudden deaths. So we have to also look at the common factors to see whether or not we can discern whether or not there are any trends.
Pieces of the puzzle, which so far hasn't been solved, with still 6 more weeks of racing left.
Now, more investigations into the track surface are ongoing. On Thursday, we learned more about some of the analysis. Although that analysis is pending, Focus learned from Peterson that there are still no obvious red flags of anything wrong with the track. However, Peterson added that trainers at Churchill have complained about small rocks on the track concentrated by the new first turn seating. A trainer confirmed this to Focus and said crews were out there on the track with buckets picking up the rocks. He also said trainers have been concerned about rocks on the tracks for a few years for obvious reasons of horses stepping on them and causing injury. Now, coming up this week, our Focus team digs deeper into the tragedies at the track. We'll bring you their investigations every day this week at 6 o'clock. A man is dead after a crash overnight near Cherokee Park. At about 2 this morning, LMPD responded to a crash on Lexington Road near Grinstead Drive. Investigators say 6 people were in a car when the driver lost control, hit a guardrail, and crashed into a tree. As a result, 21-year-old Javen Ramsey Rushing was killed. The 5 others were transported to the hospital where they are expected to survive. In Oldham County, a rollover crash has left a man dead. Early Saturday morning, Oldham County Police responded to the crash on South Rose Island Road. Officers say Pierce Walker was traveling toward Louisville when his Jeep overturned. Walker was thrown from the vehicle and died on the scene. And we now know the name of the man killed in the shooting earlier this week. Jeffrey Bizzle was shot and killed around 4:30 Thursday morning on Jacob Street. The investigation briefly shut down the 65 North ramp to Broadway. Anyone with information is encouraged to call the anonymous tip line. That's 574 LMPD.